So there it is, my friends. We did not make you wait in suspense. We just had to let you know that Somebody to Love by Queen was the number one song picked in the 2020 PDX Vox song bracket. So congratulations to Queen. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, John. Thank you, Roger, for this beautiful music. Gavin's going to say a few words of respect.
Yeah, big shout out to John Deacon, great bassist. Yeah, so this was written by Freddie Mercury and released in 1976. So for those keeping track at home, that's 2 years after Bohemian Rhapsody, which of course was, it's a pretty big song for Queen. They kind of had a movie, with Bohemian Rhapsody. So they were getting more notoriety at that time, and it was just another piece where they wanted to experiment. They had experimented with A Day at the Races, and they wanted to continue that. And so Freddie was inspired by Aretha Franklin and wanted to build this gospel choir type feel. And so they recorded hundreds of tracks, all of them. Brian May was in it, Freddie was in it. I don't know if John was doing any, but he could have been in it too.
Roger for sure.
Roger did a lot. Roger's vocals were in there, and so hundreds of tracks were put in. It took a long time. It took a huge process, but they went through the process and they made beautiful music. Mm-hmm. So that it was all worth it. Freddie Mercury, and when asked about the production of that song, he always mentioned that it was worth every long hour that they spent.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Congratulations to Somebody to Love. It's a wonderful song, and it is very deserving of the title champion.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Definitely to see that one float to the top. So not to be outdone too much, we've also got Seven Bridges Road to give lots of honor to as the second place winner. Seven Bridges Road, of course, made famous by the Eagles, but written by Steve Young in 3/4 time with no harmony. Totally different song. I recommend you listen to it. Then it was recorded by Ian Matthews in the style that we're familiar with, that the Eagles did. So with lots of harmony. And it was produced by Mike Nesmith of the Monkees, who was getting into music producing at that time. So kind of some fun trivia there. The Eagles used to sing that as kind of their warm-up in the shower or the dressing room before they were getting ready to psych up for a concert. And then they would do it as their sound check. And eventually it became a tradition that they would open their shows that way. So they didn't write it. They didn't even arrange it themselves, but they made it incredibly famous and beautiful. And it's been something that singing groups have wanted to do, for years and years. So we're going to start with those two. We're also going to hear from a couple of PDX Vox friends, special friends. The first one is Bailey Dean, and she is an instructor who's been with us for about 2 years. Really talented singer, arranger, choral expert, and just really incredible person in lots of ways. And so we're going to take a minute now and chat with Bailey. Bailey Dean, thank you so much for joining us on our final podcast for the PDX Vox Song Tournament.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. So we're going to just ask you a couple of questions. You're the newest instructor for PDX Vox, but you've done a bunch of these songs already. And also, it'd be great to get your perspective on the bracket in general, and also your perspective on our winner, who is the band Queen, and you've recently arranged one of their songs. So we're gonna ask you a few questions just to get your 2 cents on everything.
Yes. Great.
Yeah, so first we want to ask, how are you staying in touch with your creative side during the quarantine time?
Yeah, so I've been sort of doing a lot of sight reading. I play the flute casually, and I've been sort of picking that up a little bit more as a little project. Playing through some jazz tunes, playing through some classical tunes. That's been fun. And we also just downloaded Logic because it has a free 90-day trial right now. So we've been playing around a little bit in that as well, just recording. I even started recording some of my arrangements from this past PDX Vox thing, just to kind of hear them fleshed out a little bit. So that's been fun.
And is Logic as great as everybody says?
Yes, it's pretty much exactly like GarageBand. So if you've used GarageBand before, you will like know basically how to use Logic, but then it's just way more powerful. Like there's way more depth to what you can do.
Cool.
But the like userness of it is pretty much the same as GarageBand and like visuals and everything.
Great, great. So
Yeah.
no huge learning curve, but just learning all the features that are available.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I supposedly got Logic for Christmas, and we're still trying to figure out how to get it from Dave's account to mine. So I might end up getting in touch about that. So that's
super fun.
awesome. So you're doing quite a bit of music. That's inspiring. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. I love it. Great. So as you know, Is Somebody to Love is the big winner, and you've got a connection with Queen, having just arranged Under Pressure, and just want to get your thoughts on the band. Are you a fan? Like, did you know about Queen? Have you known about them for a long time? What do you think of them?
Yeah, so I've been a fan of Queen for a while. We definitely have sung, I don't remember exactly what songs. I've sung Somebody to Love at some point in my life.
Mhm.
But it was a big, like, sort of choir nerd in high school band to listen to because they have a lot of choral stuff. And, like, Bohemian Rhapsody is one of those things that you just break out into song with all your choir friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do really like them, and arranging Under Pressure was kind of fun because I didn't actually know it that well before. I mean, I knew the general, like the beginning, the opening,
Right. Totally.
wasn't really thinking about towards the end, but I like them because their songs are not just like a chorus and a verse, you know, like they're like a full like composition. It's like
Yes.
Bohemian Rhapsody is like an opera, and like Somebody to Love has this like huge, amazing build with like many different facets, and I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've become really interested in episodic songwriting, and Queen is
Yeah,
great in that regard, that, you know,
for sure.
one thing that leads to the next, and there isn't this predictable cycle to it.
Yeah,
So, yeah, and it makes sense talking to you about your choral background that Queen would be on the radar of choirs. Like they kind of are the intersection of a rock band and a choral hero, you know,
yes, for sure.
which makes it perfect for a cappella.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that like Bohemian Rhapsody is like an opera, right? It's like got even that aspect. It's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the other side, Seven Bridges Road is one of the Eagles' hits. So we just wanted to know your thoughts on the band. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What are your thoughts on the Eagles?
Yeah. So I am not that familiar with the Eagles, probably because I'm a little baby. But yeah, I literally heard Seven Bridges Road for the first time within this bracket, and it's awesome. I really enjoy it. And I know some of the other Eagles like big hits. As far as I can tell, they're great. And I love the intro to Seven Bridges Road. That's really speaks to my choral nerd, you know?
Yeah, it just begs to be sung for sure.
Yeah, it's
And
awesome.
clearly you're not the only one. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I was a little surprised to see it rise to the top, but I think there is something incredibly satisfying, especially about that intro. And Stephen mentioned it in an earlier podcast about it was a peak experience for us to sing that as a group.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. So there's like I wasn't here at that time, so I don't have that emotional connection that
Yeah.
all the other boxers do, but
Yeah. Cool. Great. So let's see. Any other thoughts about the bracket? Were there any like favorite songs that you were hoping would make it further, or were you kind of like, wow, I don't know a ton of these songs. I want to go listen to the playlist. Like, what was your thought about the songs when you saw that long list?
my first thought was that I was just really impressed by how many of those songs that PX Box had done before. I was like, these are some awesome songs. Like, I wish I would have been there to sing them. Yeah, just like kind of going through, I went through it again last night to just remember what was in there. But that Manhattan Transfer version of Nightingale sang in Berkeley Square is like classic, like really amazing.
Yeah.
And I really loved Bring Me a Little Water, Sylvie. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, choir nerd over here. And I'd sung that like since I was in choir as like a kid. So it was nice to just bring it back in like a totally different context later on in my life. So I had like a specific emotional connection to that one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. That one got a lot of love too. And I think there was something really powerful about it, and really different. And you know, you just that full body experience and the simplicity combined with the, you know, the complexity of being multi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, a lot of people love that. And, you know, just a little note about like in PDX Box, like the whole choreography can bring up a lot of feelings. It's so polarizing. Some people are like,
Yes.
yes, like singing and dancing totally makes sense to me. Other people are like, no way, like just make me do one or the other. And,
Right.
but Bring Me a Little Water was it was a great success.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. And you brought a lot of, you came in already knowing it, which was really huge. So a lot of people, it was eyes on Bailey during that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you mentioned your choral background. Were there any eras or any artists that you just you mentioned the Eagles as well that you just really had to go into the Spotify playlist and listen to and kind of hear, or how did that work for you?
Yeah. I feel like the Eagles, again, definitely big hole for me. I listened to a lot of the Beatles growing up because my dad listened to them a lot. But there's a lot of other artists during the Beatles era that I missed because it was like exclusively Beatles and like not really a lot of other stuff. Um, yeah, so there's a lot. I couldn't even name them because I probably don't really even know who they are.
There were a lot, yeah. So now you've got that
Yeah,
playlist to listen to and just sort of
for
see.
sure.
And if there's any stuff that seems especially appealing and you want the arrangement, let us know because I would
I will.
share.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, cool. Well, thanks a million for talking with us. It's so
Yeah.
you could zoom in and be with us, and I really miss seeing you and teaching with you in person. But we will see you on the other side of it, and I'm
Yes.
looking forward to finishing what we started this spring. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, take good care, Bailey.
Thanks.
All right.
All right, it was great to hear from Bailey, and also kind of hear about her music background, what she was listening to when she was young. You know, big Beatles fan in her dad.
Right, yeah.
Lots of choral music, and seems interested in hearing more Eagles music.
Of course, you can. I mean, some people would say you could get, you can never get enough of the Eagles. Some people could say you can't get enough of the Eagles. But I mean, they're definitely a large. They're definitely a band that fills with Americana, right?
Totally.
It's one that you can listen to and you get a sense of culture. Whether or not that culture is still here, whether or not the Eagles are still as popular as they were, well, for a long time they were on top, and they were producing songs that were played all through the halls and the highways of this country.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I've been having lots of conversations with people about Queen versus the Eagles, and lots of the groups in the bracket, and the whole idea are, is kind of, are they kind of time capsule groups where they really represent a time and place, or is this timeless music? And we're thinking like Eagles, they're so 70s Southern California, really define a time and place. And with Queen, even though their influences are, you can locate them in a time and place. One of my friends was saying they could have written it yesterday, or they could have written it 40 years ago. I mean, it does have this kind of broad brush in terms of styles. So it's just interesting what kind of holds up over time and why. So lots of stuff to think about with all these incredible songs. So just maybe we should talk for a sec before we go to our second guest about this business.
Yeah, so the third place, the bronze medal, as they would call it in the Olympics, which are sadly not going to happen this year. So this idea stems from the World Cup and the Olympics and other sporting events where after the semifinals, teams will play in a third place game, and then the two winners will play in the championship. So the two losers play in a third place just to find out who people like more, or and so we had this little nice bronze medal match, and in fact one day was the winner over In Your Eyes. So one day gets to be the bronze medalist and got third place. Mm-hmm. I mean, wonderful record. And then that meant In Your Eyes gets fourth, which is still very respectable. In Your Eyes was in the group of death. It was in the quadrant of death, I'll call it, because there were so many traps, trap plays where Africa was in there, big on that. Seasons of Love, Ren. What else? Oh, Hallelujah.
Parting Glass.
Parting Glass.
Under Pressure.
I mean, there were so many. I honestly thought that would be where we got our winner, because there were so many great songs, and they were just always just going fighting each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, but but then it turned out that that Queen ended up with it. But man, there were some hard decisions that were made.
Yeah, for
Most
sure.
definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like now that it's over, I really want to go back to those playlists and just listen to those songs all over again, and also listen to other versions of them. Anyway, there's just lots to dig into. And also, one thing that came to my attention is that, especially after talking to our next guest, is that two of the songs that we've done as all group songs that were very popular didn't make it onto the bracket, and it wasn't an intentional slight. But Space Oddity by David Bowie, for some reason, it just fell off the radar. And then Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis Presley, which we did fairly recently. So anyway, two more songs. I'm going to be adding those to the playlist that we've been listening to so that we don't forget them completely. But I feel like we should have a special face-off with those. Those are, again, really special songs. So let's hear from our next guest, who's not with PDX Box right now, but who taught with us for a bunch of years and arranged our winning song. So we talked to him earlier today and let him know about his victorious arrangement.
Hey, David Anderson.
Hey.
Hey, congratulations. We're calling you to officially let you know that your arrangement of Somebody to Love is the winner of the 2020 PDX Box song bracket. Congratulations.
That's awesome. I love that song. One of my favorites.
Awesome. That's great. Cool. So, we're going to ask you a few questions. We're just really excited to reconnect with you. We know that you're busy down in Southern California, parenting 24/7, also holding down a teaching job. And Gavin's going to get started.
Yeah. So our first question to you is, which sports are you missing right now? And is March Madness kind of a big event for you in general during this time?
It's crazy. I have the ESPN app on my phone, and it's like a morning ritual. I go on ESPN, I check, everything that's going on, and I found that I've done that less and less and less because there's nothing happening. And so, I think I've gotten to the point where it's like off my grid, to be honest. Right now should be like the national championship for college basketball, and the playoffs should be starting soon with the NBA. And I know with Aaron and Steven, that was the playoffs for the NBA is kind of a big thing for them every year. So, I think sports is kind of, I don't know, it's weird. Like my brain is just like faded to a whole nother world. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, it's a big void, and there's a lot of other stuff to fill it, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that, and hence the bracket. We're kind of tying it with March Madness because even just any kind of bracket sort of fills a certain part of that void.
That's true.
Watching games, there's nothing quite like it. But when you were filling out your bracket, or when you were looking at the bracket, what kind of decisions come up when you're choosing between two songs? I imagine there are just a lot of things, but any patterns for you?
Well, as most people know, I'm not really a big lyric person. To me, there's the feeling that the music can give you. Mm-hmm. And so Seven Bridges Road is a big one. Always been. So anyone that has those songs that just have that deep, powerful feeling behind it are the ones that I feel like I lean towards. And I like a song with a groove and a nice little beat to it. So there's some songs like one of my personal favorites I hadn't thought of in a long time was Think. When I saw that, I was like, that's my song. And so that's, unfortunately it didn't make it this far, but that's kind of my mode.
Yeah, cool. That makes a lot of sense. It's like the musical energy of it. It's kind of how that feels.
For sure.
Cool. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
So any other favorite songs? So Think was a big one. I know that you arranged the Aquarius song. That was also a big one for you. Any others?
What was that? I really liked that David Bowie.
Space Oddity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That was another one that I was looking at that I I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah,
sure.
gosh, that didn't even make it out of the first round, did it?
Mm-mm.
Nuts. Wow. Yeah, that was one of
Yeah.
my favorites. Gosh, I'm glad
Hmm.
you brought that up because that
Yeah.
is so weird. Cool. Well, let's talk about Somebody to Love and Queen. I'm just curious what you remember. You led it twice. I think I don't remember the exact years, but it was like
I can't.
2012ish and then 2015, something like that.
Hmm.
And you led it, and just tell us about the arrangement process and what
Sure.
you remember about leading it.
Well, I think the first time we did it, it was a just for Wednesday night, right? Or wasn't all group to begin with?
Both times, yeah.
Okay. Well, I remember we had to.
Kids from different groups, and we had to coordinate it so that there were soloists in each group. Remember for the service concerts, and then
That's right.
pull it all together. So it was a little bit of a Broadway Broadway musical scenario
Right.
where everything had
Yeah,
to come together in the end.
I think that was one of the first times we tried doing that. We were a little nervous about that, and I had to change it for the second go around. I mean, for that song, I don't really feel like I had to change much of it. It just kind of, what's the word? Authentically, can't think of the right word, but it just kind of like smoothly transitioned from the song that I was hearing to voice. There's so much richness in the vocals, and there really wasn't a lot of instrumentation that stuck out to me in the original. It's just all about this big, chorus type feeling to the song. So when I arranged it, I didn't really feel like there was much I needed to do, but I did feel like the solo, Freddie Mercury and his voice, like that was just something that it needed to have a soloist. You couldn't duplicate that with 5 or 6 voices. It needed to have this, someone who's just very passionate about the words. And so yeah, when I was arranging it, it kind of just smoothly happened.
Yeah, yeah. You didn't have to think too hard to find the parts. They were just in there in the music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some arrangements are that way. They're begging to be arranged, and it's just you feel like more of a scribe in a way than a
Right.
creative.
And I feel like if I had changed it, I feel like it would be a disservice. There's some songs where it's just, if you try to mess with it, it's almost like you're backtracking. You're taking away from the beauty of the song.
Yeah.
So that's one of those songs, I think.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So you mentioned Freddie, and so what are your thoughts on Queen in general? Are you a big fan? Like, what's your relationship with the band Queen?
Well, I'll say this: I make sure that my kids know that their repertoire of Queen is pretty good. We listen to it in the car. My son will be able to pick out his voice. He's like, "Wait, is this Queen?" I'm like, "Thank you. No, I've been educated, So yeah, I've always been a big fan. I wasn't really brought up with Queen, to be honest. Just the stuff I would see in movies like We Will Rock You or Bohemian Rhapsody. But then as I got older, I gained a deeper appreciation. So now I'm making sure with my kids that even my 4-year-old, he knows who Queen is. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Gavin and I have been talking about whether Queen has always been popular or whether they sort of had a dip in popularity and then a resurgence. I don't know if you have any insights about that. And when sort of versus the Eagles, where they might be a little bit more of a time capsule of a certain,
Right.
I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it probably goes in waves.
Mhm.
I think there's just certain time periods where they're shown in pop culture and then everyone kind of just jumps on the bandwagon. But I remember I had a friend in high school who was just like amazing guitarist, and he was a big fan of Queen. He had Queen greatest hits, and I didn't know much about Queen besides the more popular stuff, but he lent me that CD, and I just realized just how much depth and how much just his voice is what really captured me. So anyway, I mean, it probably comes and goes, but I know that there's fans out there that just stand true to Freddie Mercury and
Right.
the band. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Great. And anything to say about the Eagles and Seven Bridges and their legacy?
I'm not as familiar with the Eagles. Besides, I need to get more educated on the Eagles, to be honest. I mean, I only know their hits that I hear on the radio, but I don't have much of a background as much with with them. But if someone ever gave me the opportunity to arrange an Eagles song, I would gladly accept it because of probably my lack of Eagles Eagles exposure, I should say.
Right, right, yeah, and there is a lot of harmony in their songs. I mean,
Yeah.
Seven Road is the ultimate harmonic experience, but
Sure.
yeah, I mean that, especially that beginning, it's like again begging to be sung by a cast of thousands. But yeah, with all those singers in the band, there might be some
Right.
other ones. Yeah, cool. How about the last one?
Yeah. So just during this time, we just wanted to know how are you getting through your stay-at-home time with your being a dad, being a musician, being a teacher? How's that been going for you?
Have to stick to a schedule. Super important. My wife and I both work from home now. So we've taken days. So I have 3 days a week. She has 3 days a week where we can get done what we need to. But the kids always have a schedule. They're always, breakfast, brush your teeth, make your bed, exercise. Like it's all laid out. And so they have this little clothespin and they have to like move it down the schedule as they go. So that keeps some sanity. Like today is my day. So I've been able to get some work done, talk to you guys, and so I think that's been our survival mode, is making sure we are very much on that schedule.
Mhm.
Except for when we have birthdays. Like yesterday was actually my birthday, and we had all day video game day. So all we did, we put 2 TVs in my kids' room, and one of them had the Wii U, the other one had the Switch, and so we just sat there and played video games all day.
Oh my
We
God.
can't go anywhere, and normally I would take him to the beach because that's what I would rather be doing on my birthday. But can't go to the beach, so we just did all day video games. And then it's Marcus's birthday on Friday, and we're gonna do the same thing again. Play video games.
That's the move.
Yeah, it's the art of the possible for sure.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a celebration,
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll get some extra fun time in 2021 for your birthday, because this probably feels like a little bit of a compromise.
Yeah, and Christiana, for her birthday, we got her money for Hamilton tickets.
Oh, right on. Oh, that's great. Was her birthday recently?
Yeah, well, a few weeks ago, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But sad part is, like, she would go to the Pantages. That's where we were planning to get her tickets, and everything's closed. So who knows when that's gonna happen. So her birthday, even more sad, I would say.
Right. Oh
So,
man. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh gosh. It's a lot. But it's so good to see you, David. And
Yeah.
just any last words? I know you were talking about sort of creative energy right now. How are you feeling about your creative life and just trying to keep music going for your students? Any parting words of wisdom or?
Well, I mean, I believe music is important, and I think it's just, I wouldn't stress, if you're trying to learn a skill, it's all about like what you enjoy at this point, kind of to uplift your spirits. I think there's some people who feel a lot of pressure to try to fit in, like, oh, I need to learn how to play the guitar. I need to learn how to do this and this and this, build up my skills. But I think at this point, there's some healing that needs to happen, physically, mentally. And so I keep on telling my students that if they're not enjoying what they're doing, find something else, and take the time to care for yourself. That would be my parting word.
I love that. Wow. It's so nice to see you, David. We've been thinking
Yeah,
about
good to
a lot
see you.
as we work through this bracket. And again, congratulations for arranging that winning song.
Thank you. I don't deserve the credit. It's all Queen, but
Yeah. Well, you brought it to the table for us and brought all that joy for all those singers. So thanks. I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. Take good care.
bye. Thanks, everyone.
All right, so you've heard from 2 of our great instructors. I also want to give a shout out to Susan Peck, who's been tracking the tournament. She taught with us for several years, and she brought a bunch of these beautiful songs to the bracket as well. So hello, Susan. Thanks for tuning in. We missed you. She's down in New Mexico. And I also want to just give a quick shout out to Allison Jekyll, who's our program administrator who did some research for our podcast. as well as Carrie Booth, who put together our master list of all the arrangements of PDX Vox. There are now hundreds of songs that we've sung since 2004, and Carrie fastidiously put together a spreadsheet so that I could look and easily take out all of these songs to do the brackets. So it's a wonderful resource. Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
Well, this was a wonderful way to spend quarantine. Honestly, it was really fun to see all the votes. I mean, I was surprised with a lot. I'm not too surprised with the winner. There were a couple of ones that I saw, but definitely Somebody to Love is not the wrong way to go. But this has been wonderful. Again, thank you to each and every one of you who voted, who watched our videos, who just supported, sent us emails. All of that was appreciated. All of that kept us going. We love doing this. And thank you so much. And I'm really grateful. I'm grateful that we had some sort of March Madness during this time.
Yeah. If we can't have the real thing, we improvised in a very fun way. So thank you, Gavin. Thanks, everybody. And maybe we'll throw together some more podcasts in the near future. So stay tuned.
Ball is tipped, and there you are. You're running for your life. You're a shooting star. And all the years, no one knows just how hard you worked. But now it shows. In one shining moment, it's all on the line. In one shining moment, they're frozen. Time is short.